Welcome to the Marvelous Moms Club podcast. Discover yourself, break out of mediocrity, and become the mom you've always aspired to be. Here's your host, Kirsten Tyrell.
Hello, mamas out there. Welcome to today's episode of the podcast. You're going to love this one. It's a really, really good one. And I'm excited to chat. My guest today, her name is Samantha Naud. We're going to call her Sam for fun because I think that's a really cute nickname for Samantha. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited.
I'm excited. I was just telling her this is my favorite thing to do in the entire world. And she came highly recommended. And I know she has some amazing, wonderful things to share with you today. I was reading a little bit about what you sent me when we first emailed. And I just feel like it's stuff every mom needs to be reminded of or just needs to know. And it's so great to have those examples of the ways people are doing parenting differently and homeschooling. And I don't know, everything that I read, I just see that you totally cherish motherhood and that you're aware of how you're raising your children. So I'm excited to talk about that with everybody. So to get started, tell everybody how many kids you have and what kind of your daily life looks like.
Okay. I have 4 kids. A 5.5-year-old, 4-year-old, 2-year-old, and a 4-month-old.
Oh my goodness.
It goes girl, boy, boy, girl. And our days it's funny at the stage how we try really hard to set routines, but with little people, they just throw wrenches get thrown in all the time. But we try every day to wake up and have a warm breakfast, something that's other than cereal. We have Sunday cereal, so that's kind of a special
fun
thing. And then we always start the day with our scripture reading. And I try really hard to take each kid aside and help them say their personal prayers. And occasionally we'll do a scripture journal. And then we try and I'll have one of the kids conduct a song and do a scripture verse that we're memorizing.
That's
and
awesome.
Then we always do read aloud time after that. And sometimes it takes us from there. We'll go outside or just depends on the day.
Yeah. So you don't have all of them technically in school age, but you're homeschooling them all, and which I love because you can kind of start the education. You don't have to be like, okay, now you're 4 or now you're 5 and we're in preschool. It's time to start learning. It just kind of, did you always plan on homeschooling your kids or did you decide a little bit after they were school age?
I never really planned on it, and we were living in North Carolina, and in the West, where I grew up in California, it just wasn't a big thing. It didn't seem like a lot of families homeschooled when I was growing up. As we were in different churches and different groups, I just started to meet a lot of people that were homeschooling in the East, so I started to check that out. And originally, I really decided to when I realized that my daughter would be going to full day kindergarten. And with my first child, I was like, I don't want to send my 5-year-old away all day long. So, and then it kind of evolved from there.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband's super on board, which I think makes it really great.
Oh, yeah. That can be one of the biggest obstacles because, I don't even know why. I guess for us, when we tried homeschooling, it was because my husband worked from home. And it was just a lot. There was a lot going on every single day. And so it was hard to manage all of the crazy and the energies and the different responsibilities that came with it. But I really loved it for that reason. That was kind of why I gravitated to it for a little while. And why I definitely think we're going to do it again. Is just that, I love my kids being close. Not in a weird, overprotective way.
Yeah.
Just, I only get so much time with you. I don't want you gone for half the day or most of the day.
I know. And that is a big thing for us too. We wanted just the time to be able to spend together. For me, a huge thing too is to help them build their character while they're really young, and just have that really solid foundation where at home with their siblings, they fight and they argue, but that's part of life, and to help them learn the tools that they need in order to cope with all these different feelings and emotions that they're getting at this age.
Yeah.
I've always felt like that was something really, really important because we have a lot of distractions as we become adults,
Right.
I don't want them to start, seeking other areas and when they're having feelings and
Yeah, that's true. So I love that you kind of talked about this a little bit in your email to me. And I think it's a good transition because I know it can get crazy having all of your kids home. all the time and never really getting that break that people look forward to when they put their kids in school. So you refer to the parenting iron rod, the 3 things that help you when you're going insane. And I was really intrigued by that. So please share that.
Okay. Well, some of your listeners might not know. So like in the Book of Mormon, it talks about the iron rod that leads Lehi and his family to the tree of life. And so for me, this actually just dawned on me like a couple months ago, and I ran to my husband. I'm like, I'm a genius. He's like, yeah, sure. But the 3 things that ever since my kids have been really little, the 3 things that I just go to are reading, outdoors, and dancing. So like the parenting iron rod. So when I'm going insane, I'm like, I pick one of those. I just sit down and start reading, and they'll kind of come in, or we'll pack up and go outside, or we'll have a dance party. And each one of those things, if one of them doesn't work, I go down the line, and it's like a fail proof,
I love that.
Tried and true.
Yeah, I can totally see that being completely factual. Like I'm like sitting here thinking of the times we've done each one of those 3 things, not just one time, but it is true. Like when my kids are stressed out or we're just having a rough day, one of the best things I can do is sit on the couch and just start reading. Even if at first they're resisting, like, I don't want to read that book. If I keep going, eventually everybody's listening. And same with outside.
Exactly.
Like everything feels better with fresh air. It just does.
I know. And it's hard to remember those things sometimes when you're like focused on your kids fighting or something's going on. And for me to have that visual of the parenting iron rod, it really just reminds me, even though I do it every time and it's almost become instinctual, but sometimes I'm like, I'm going crazy. What do I need? And then like, oh, parenting iron rod. Like,
yeah.
Use one of those.
Seriously. I love that. And when you treat it like that, like a survival tip or a survival tool and an acronym, it's easier to remember that when you're like, I'm really having a rough day right now and I have no solution. Yeah. You immediately know what to jump to. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So with your homeschooling, I think something I learned when I did it too was like, it's not so much about the curriculum in the beginning. It really is about like shaping them into amazing little human beings. And a lot of times that starts with behavior and just manners and respect and all of that. And I think from what I'm picking up on, that's kind of where your focus is too. I mean, obviously the curriculum comes into play, but I don't think people understand how much those basic traits of behavior are so critical in determining how well they learn.
Oh yeah, character. Before I started homeschooling, I had the same fear that a lot of people who don't understand or aren't in homeschooling had, is like, how are you going to do it when they hit high school? Mm-hmm. How are you even going to teach them that? But as we've started at this age, you're really just teaching them those tools. And I think back, I'm like, I don't remember all the stuff that I learned when I was in grade school. And that's really not what we're trying to obtain, is for them to gain a ton of knowledge. We want them to have those tools to be able to learn and to love learning. So that is something that is huge. My husband and I have talked about a lot, is that, we want them to have that love of learning, but also to build character at the same time. Yeah. And so it's been a good opportunity for us.
I'm sure. I think that can be a continuous cycle too. Like you never really master that, but it's like so fun to build upon too, as they get older and they have more understanding of behavior and of communication with other people. So I think it's cool. I think that is an advantage and something fun that you get to, you can do without homeschooling. You can definitely teach your kids those skills, but it's kind of cool how that, I don't know, you kind of have a little more control over the way that those behaviors are molded and shaped and taught in a healthy way that meets with your family values. So I really, really like that.
I think for me too. And it depends on the type of person that you are, but I don't do well with chaos and to simplify our lives enough to where we have the time to, for things to naturally evolve and to, like, for instance, I think a huge thing for my homeschool is just the idea of grace. Last year, I really started to understand this idea of grace and how, I can't do everything. Mm-hmm. And so, and I, pray and try and figure out ways to help each child. And I've gotten the sweetest little love notes of how, one child's really struggling with something, and my love note was just smile and hug him when he's having a really hard time, or sit with him on the stairs and sing him a song, say a prayer and let him go, or, like things like that, to where I get frustrated sometimes, but then I ask for those and he, sends them to me, and I'm like, thank you. I couldn't do without you.
That's so sweet. I love that so much. That's like my favorite thing is when my kids write me little love notes like that. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're aware, you're learning, and you actually do like me, even though sometimes I feel like you're just here to make me miserable on certain bad days,
Yeah.
So your husband works outside of the home, so you're by yourself with the kids all day, is that right? Or does he work from home? Okay, so you really do take on like more than one hat. You have the mommy hat, and you really are the full-time teacher, which most of the time moms are teachers. I know you've seen those memes and those comparisons, how moms are like house cleaners and professional chefs and all these different things. And the other day my son actually said to me something like, about me being, he's like, you're basically like a servant. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I really am. Like, I have to have so many skills, and I'm basically a servant. It was a really...
I think my daughter made the same comment about that one time.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what do mommies do? It's like, oh no, that's not all. They're supposed to clean up after us. I'm like,
not so much.
Okay.
That's really not my only reason that I'm here, surprisingly enough.
Yeah.
So, because I'm sure that sometimes I know that I felt overwhelmed a ton, and I love that you kind of touched on this too. How do you deal with the overwhelm?
I actually, I just had this really neat experience. I've been really loving the scriptures lately, and there's, the experience with Jesus and Mary and Martha, and where Jesus is telling Martha, like, Mary's doing the needful thing, and you need to come and sit at my feet. And that, like, just a couple weeks ago, it just like snapped, like, that's what I need to do. Like, whenever I'm stressed, I need to sit at his feet. Especially, Martha was feeling totally underappreciated. And I feel that way often.
Oh,
and
yeah.
especially with like all these little people. It's amazing how you have more and more kids, but I sometimes feel more and more lonely. I'm like, how does that even work? But, and that's for me something that's really helped. Like I try to model that. So like I have a nice journal that I'll, doodle in and do things. And that kind of is like one way for me to really try and get the stress out of my life. That and music.
Yeah. What's your music
I feel
choice?
I love like the Canadian tenors, and I love Josh Groban, Celine Dion, all those type.
So like,
I always feel like Pandora
music.
is feeling me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and whenever I'm having those stressful moments, it's like another love note from Heavenly Father, because a song will play on Pandora, and I'm like, oh, how did he know I needed that?
That very one at this very moment is exactly what I needed. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that so much. I realized kind of a little later in my motherhood journey, because music is a huge part of my husband's life and my life, and my husband sings very similarly to Josh Groban. So if he ever records a CD, I'll send it to you.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I don't make him sing enough. It's super stupid, but even though we had a passion for that, it's interesting how you can get caught up in the daily grind of parenting, and you're just you slip into survival mode. And we realized like a couple years ago, why aren't we sharing music with our kids the way that we want? Like, we used to have it as part of our life. How come it's not anymore? And it really does make a big difference. Even like fun movie soundtracks, like the Trolls soundtrack and the Moana soundtrack, those lead to the dance parties.
Can't stop this feeling inside my bones. That's like our number one breakdown, like dance song right now. My kids all like start like electric wavy, and I'm like, oh, it's awesome.
I love it. Yeah, our households are probably bouncing at the same time every night, right?
Oh yeah, it's like right before dinner. I'm like, okay, we need a dance party because I'm gonna go crazy.
Yeah, got to get those little bodies busy so they're not in the kitchen trying to touch everything, right?
Yeah.
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about right now. Okay, there's something else that I think you're really good at. well, I don't know you really well, but based on what you've told me, I know that you're probably really good at this. And it's something I want to talk about because I think it kind of goes into different like types of motherhood and how, some of us are working moms, some of us are doing businesses from home, or we're all modeling to our kids the types of people that we would love them to become. And even if they don't do it our exact way, I think sometimes we forget how much more powerful that example is by doing than just like sharing stories and sharing our words. So how do you feel like that weighs into like what you're teaching them? How much of that is just from example versus
big time
the words? Yeah.
I was thinking just a few years ago about, you read in the scriptures about like doing things in your closets and that's really important too. But when it comes to kids, I feel like you can't hide in the closet all the time doing your scriptures, and you really have to be very open. And so I do things kind of on purpose sometimes where, I'm having a really hard time. Another thing I do is I'll just drop to the floor, close my eyes, and you can tell the kids are like, she's praying, like leave mom alone.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm having, like I said earlier, having a rough time. So I'll bring out my, my journal. And so there are little things that I just purposely try and do so that and for another thing my husband and I've talked about a lot too, is that we try and use our physical scriptures when we're reading instead of our phones, and try as much as possible to stay off our phones because they don't really know.
They don't know what you're doing.
We're doing on the phone, and it's funny how all of us, we see other people on their phone and we always assume, they must be, chatting or they must doing something, and so that's something that we've tried to do is just especially with our young kids, just so that there was a while when my kids would walk around with their Book of Mormons, and it was just one of those like pat yourself on the back because it was just like happy tears, you're like, oh, they're watching me. I did something good.
It's working. They are observing. I know. And I had a friend or maybe somebody on the podcast, I get all of these things mixed up, who said, as soon as my kids saw me actually reading, if I'm sitting there telling them they need to read. I feel like it was a podcast guest. It was so much more impactful for her to actually sit down and read a book, even though it feels like as a busy mom, you really shouldn't have time to do that. She did make time to do it, and she was able to read. It might have been Jessica. That's so funny. I bet you it was Jessica. It's starting to like flow. Jessica's the one who referred Sam, for those of you guys who don't know what I'm talking about, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit more.
I've tried that a lot.
Yeah. You're doing everything exactly by example. About the gratitude journal. Do you have your kids keep a gratitude journal as well?
I've started with my daughter, and it's been really neat where we will do just kind of like one sentence a night, just something that she really liked the day. And we don't, with the other kids, do a gratitude journal, but always at dinner, we always ask 3 questions. What was your favorite thing? What was your not favorite thing? And something good that they did. So it's kind of a good way before they can write to just get an idea of the things that they should be looking for. I feel like with the gratitude journal, so last year, that was one of my goals, was to journal. And I did it every single day. I did it through my private Instagram account, and I printed it through my chat book. So I have like 30 chat books.
Wow.
And yeah, it was intense. But it changed my life. And I've pretty consistently, ever since I had my daughter, I've journaled or blogged. And the periods when I'm down and I'm not really doing it, I start to kind of feel like, what is wrong? And then I realize it's because I haven't been doing my journaling. So something that I do every night is I just will flip through my pictures and I'll try to think of like my most favorite times of the day. And it really just helps set my attitude because I thought it was so funny that today I was going to be talking to you for the Marvelous Moms Club because my kids were going nuts. I'm texting my husband. I'm like, this is funny. He's like,
this is ironic.
Keeping it real. I'm like, like the twice I had to pee, like clean the pee off the carpet, and the one kid's playing in the toilet, and the other, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yes, it was testing your Marvelous Mom skills. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that makes sense. They know. They have radar.
But the sun came out. The sun came out like 3 times.
Yes.
We're good. Like,
it totally
just like
did.
that's something that I've really tried to do more. My husband's really good at it, so he's a good example.
Yeah, I love that you said that you were reading Pollyanna. Were you about to read Pollyanna, or you just finished Pollyanna? I can't remember.
We finished Pollyanna a little while ago, yeah, and it was awesome.
That seems
We
like a
we
good
played the
one.
Just Be Glad game for
I
a while,
love
and
it.
it really, really was life-changing for my daughter because she would all of a sudden say things like, "But I can just be glad," and I'm like, "Yes."
It's working. Oh, I love that.
Uh,
I forget about stuff like that. I watch the movies, but I don't even think about that as like a book because you said you guys are starting on Bambi next. I didn't even, this might sound
Yeah.
dumb. I'm sure. Of course it's a book, but I would never even think to like read that as a story. And I'm sure the book is even better than the movie. So let me know how that goes. Sounds really fun.
it's funny because our kids have never seen a movie, so
Really?
we're kind of unique in that way.
I
But
love that though.
it's funny because people ask me all the time, like, well, when is Summer gonna see a movie? She's almost 6, and I'm like, well, I don't know. It's just become something where we feel like we just don't even have time for it. So they have a couple hours of screen time, or not even a couple hours, like 1 hour of screen time on Saturday, and they do it with their dad. And so it's a fun, neat thing. But the rest of the time, we try to go out on adventures and different things. So I'm like, and it's easy with homeschool too. They don't have as much pressures to
That's
go and
true.
see all the latest and greatest.
They don't even know what they're missing out on. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. I've always kind of wondered about stuff like that. How long can you like kind of keep your kids not shielded in like an overprotective way at all, but if they're never exposed to certain things until they're mature enough to handle them, I wonder what a difference it makes, you know? Like
I was just thinking about this the other day because there are the two views, like you
Yeah.
said, the shielded view and then the other one. And I was kind of thinking about growing up, we just never had soda in the house. And so, because my mom didn't like it. So then when I tried, like a Sprite or something, the carbonation when I was older was just like, oh, this is killer. So then I never really liked it. But there are others who would say like, well, you're shielding them and they're going to just like go crazy. And I'm like, we'll see. But
yeah.
I think that we still really try to respect their feelings and their wants. But at this age, we just try to make those other things like going outside and reading books really enticing.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that
they should
they're
be.
more exciting.
They are exciting, and there's so much more value in a book than there is in a movie. So I really like that. I think definitely my kids could use a big reduction in screen time. I think we've talked about that many times on the podcast. It's one of those hard ones, though. I love that, like, if you've never even started it, then it's not it's not even an easy fix because you have nothing to fix. It's just nice to never fall into that trap, and they don't even have like a fear of missing out because they don't know what they're missing out on.
Yeah, for us it's super easy because we just don't have a TV at all.
Ooh.
So they're like, well, right now we're in a temporary housing because we're in the middle of moving, and so there is a TV. So there is that sometimes, like when I play the music and it will go out and some TV show will come on and they're like glued to it. I'm like, oh wow, it's amazing how much kids just like get sucked in.
Yeah.
But we all do.
Yeah, it's true. It's so cool. We got rid of our TV for a little while. It lasted maybe a couple weeks. So you're stronger than we are. That's
It was
awesome.
just a coincidence type of thing where we were given a big, huge tube TV that fit perfectly over the fireplace, and we were about ready to move. It weighed like 200 pounds, and we were like, leave the TV, And then we just never went and bought a new one. And people keep trying to buy us a TV. They're like, they're really cheap. And we're like, no, we're good. We're good.
It's really my choice that we don't have a TV. We know we could go buy one right now if we wanted to.
Yeah.
Well, I love to, like, there's homes, I've been going to, like, the Parade of Homes, and the newer models are built where, like, the TV is not the central focus of the house anymore. Like, they don't even have, like, that cut into the wall for a TV to go. If anything else, it's like there's nowhere for a TV to go. They force that to be, like, downstairs or out of the central part of the home, which I really love, because if you walk into most houses, that's kind of where all of the attention and all of the energy is focused on. It's all directed towards the TV. The kitchen is facing there so they can watch TV. And that becomes like the determining or just like the central focus of the household. So I don't know. I like that. I would love a house where the TV wasn't even in the living room. And I guess that's my choice. I could totally take the TV down.
Do it, do it. Your kids are like, no, why are you listening to her, Mom?
You're taking away our screen time. No, we could definitely go without it. Well, I love your insight. I think, honestly, like, it's refreshing. I love how differently everybody's kind of doing it and raising their children, and there's no right or wrong. Like, I love your perspective really kind of refreshes mine and makes me realize, like, I can survive without TV, or, you know, I do need to be reading with my children more often. And it's not in like oh, that's so discouraging. She's like so good at that, and I totally suck at that. It's like, we need each other to remind each other that we're all good at different things, and I can utilize your tips and apply them to my motherhood, and it can benefit my children. So I don't know what you're ever going to learn from me, because I would probably just tell you to pop Netflix on or something like that.
No. Yeah, right.
But I love everything that you've shared today. I love the journaling. I have had a couple guests on here that every time I talk to somebody who journals, I'm like, why am I not journaling? And even just charting that. And I want you to kind of, like, the last thought I want you to share that I really stood out to me was about, like, being present in the moment versus capturing memories.
Yeah, that is definitely a struggle. As I've gotten, I was really late at even getting a smartphone. I just got my smartphone like 2 years ago, maybe. And I was very reluctant because I didn't want to become addicted to it. There are times when it is very challenging. There are a lot of times actually when things are really hard where I find myself wanting to turn to social media because it's just an out, and it's nice to kind of just see what other people are doing, feel like you're communicating somehow.
Yeah.
And not that it's bad, but I felt empty. And so now with my phone, I feel like I've gotten really good at, capturing things where I can just slide over and capture really fast and make it to where I'm not like so focused on capturing the perfect picture and, okay, kids, freeze, no moving, like driving them crazy every single moment, but just trying to be more candid about it. And so then I am more present, because that's one thing I like to do a lot too, is not judgmentally, but at the parks or different things, I watch the different moms. And it's funny how our generation is just like, we have the camera in our kids' face all the time. And so I'm like, that just has got to be so interesting for them.
Yeah.
So I try to be mindful of that, like, reality versus, just trying to share these moments with them. But I do really think it's really important to capture them, because then they look back at them and they're like, hey, even I do that. I'll have really hard days, and I look back at my journals and I'm like, wow, my life is really good. Even if I had a really hard day, it is really good.
Yeah. I really like that. I think it's just kind of finding that balance, I think, too. And I don't know, I'm guilty of like capturing way too many pictures, and then what do I do with them? And if you kind of control that urge a little bit, then you're not as overwhelmed with the content of what to print in your chat books or what to share and keep. And you're enjoying the moment while still capturing way more than our parents were ever able to capture of us. Way more, right? Just that you can take a photo every single day is pretty consistent.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. This has actually become like my biggest hobby, is finding ways to manage my photos and do family scrapbooks every year. So, and it's neat because it's hard, because I want to be perfect at it right now so that I can, document everything. But then it never works that way. But I learn line upon line, and each year I get a little bit better. So it's nice to have those memories.
Yeah, it's a good reminder. I'm so behind on like years and years of photos. And I finally just I'm like, hey, I'm going to work backwards. I started with now all the way back to October. So about 6 months worth. And I cleaned up all the photos and I uploaded them all. And I'm just going to let Chatbooks build me a little photo book. And I'll just do that in 6 month increments. And eventually, in a few months, we'll be caught up. Maybe. Hopefully.
Yeah. I know. We have to trick ourselves, because our expectations are our biggest enemies sometimes. So you have to, just like, it's okay to just do it a little at a time and not be perfect. Sometimes I don't even want to start a project because I'm like, I know I'm not going to be perfect, but then I have to remind myself, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I really appreciate you being here. chatting with me for a little bit about your perspective and the way that you're, doing motherhood. It's really nice and refreshing to hear from you. So I ask everybody at the end, and I would like you to share this. What makes you a marvelous mom?
I think what makes me a marvelous mom is that I just heard the song the other day. It was from Hillary Weeks, and it said, "Every good thing makes me want to sing." And that's what makes me a marvelous mom, is this trying to find the good things and trying to find the joy through the journey. Mm-hmm. I think and it's really tough and there's really hard days, but I think overall, just finding those little things has really helped me enjoy motherhood and to be a better mother.
Yeah, I love that. That's an amazing answer. Thank you again. I'm so excited to share this with everybody, and I really, truly appreciate it. It was nice to hang out with you.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Anytime. All right, everybody listening, have a marvelous day, and we'll see you on the next episode. As a busy mom who's also running multiple businesses, it's kind of hard for me sometimes to get healthy dinner on the table that my kids will actually eat, which is why I'm obsessed with HelloFresh. HelloFresh is going to help you get inspired again and again, be unstoppable, and eat deliciously with your family. They shop, plan, and deliver your food to your door. They give you step-by-step recipes and ingredients so you can just relax and enjoy all there is to love about cooking. And of course, eating. I know you'll love it as much as I do, so I'm offering you an amazing code. I'm not an affiliate, but this is just the best way to get it for the best price. Use code KIRTYRR to get $40 off your first HelloFresh box. This is an amazing, amazing deal, and I promise you will thank me later when you taste the food for the first time. So again, go check it out, HelloFresh.com, and use activation code KIRTYRR to get started today.